Hey, this is Yang Nguyen, and you're listening to the Immi-Wealth Builder podcast, where we celebrate incredible immigrant success stories, share proven strategies, and give you actionable steps to build your wealth, freedom, and a lasting legacy. Let's go get it. Today, I'm super excited for you to hear from Tracy. She will tell you stories about how you can start with nothing. You can start messy, you can start scared, but you can start anyway. She will share with you stories about how she got real estate license, about starting her first fixer-upper to live in, and then keep growing and building her wealth from there. Tracy, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell the audience where you're from and your journey to real estate investing.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to really find out that you're doing this podcast because a lot of time we immigrant, we see the American dream, but sometimes it's hard to really attain it. And we feel like it's too hard, too complicated, really require a lot of money and effort. And it's true at some point, but I'm happy to see that you really highlight the story and hopefully we're going to have more story like this. So that's awesome. A little bit about me. I am in Columbus, Ohio. Probably people hear about Columbus, Ohio more often than not the last couple of years with all the investment that really pour into the city. When I moved here 11 years ago from Texas, Columbus was not Columbus today. We was medium-sized city. There's good school, there's good economy, everything medium for people to start a family. The good timing that when I started in Columbus, is also where Columbus started to really boom. And so I think normally I say when we do anything, it's a little bit of faith that I moved back here. It's a little bit of luck where it's booming economy of the city and it's a lot of hard work and learning curve. So when we moved back here, we rent the apartment and then we know the rent just like anytime, you talk to a realtor or mortgage loan officer, we only do the monthly payment. Like, why you pay this monthly payment to the rent when you can pay for yourself, right? I was done from my MBA degree in Corpus Christi, Texas. So apparently I didn't have a full-time job. So get a loan is a little difficult. We have some cash saving over the years between me and my husband, but the cash that we had nothing that we can buy. I decided to get my real estate license and people like, why you want to get a license? And I'm like, I want to invest in real estate, buy my first home. And my friend like, you can use a realtor. You don't need a license to buy your first home. I'm like, I want to explore and see if anything in it for me. And I'm so glad that I did. So I got the license. Didn't really know what were waiting for me. So we look at all the cheapest price homes on the market. And I still remember when I walk into that home and there's like bird nest by the front porch and inside all the ceiling really like falling halfway because they used to have the water busted. And then HVAC didn't work, water tank didn't work, we know plumbing leaked somewhere. At that point, I know a handyman and I'm like, can you go look at this house with me? And he walked in and he's like, why are you buying this thing? And I'm like, because I don't have money, maybe. And then I remember I got my in-law walking there and they very tried to be nice. And they like, there's potential, but... And I'm like, it's bad. Okay. However, we don't have a choice. We don't have an option. So we're just like, you know what? We're going to buy it. And then we negotiate a little bit down for the price. And we didn't even have all the budget to fix it up. So we basically live in one room and then go work and save a little money and then fix the next room. And I think we finally got it done in like 9 months. But you know what? Sometimes when you don't have options, it really motivates you to figure out what really you have to do. And so that's really the hard work that come in over the 9 months. Seriously, we didn't really pay anybody to do the work. I paint. My husband really fixed the floor, the bathroom, which is do a little bit at a time. And that's how we learn the skill. I mean, my husband got all the skill set. I had to learn because I didn't really know what to do. We didn't even talk about financing, running the deal analysis or anything like that. But I got my first home and it's still my favorite home ever. It's tiny little home, but it's still my favorite home ever.
Gosh, I love that. When you don't have an option B, the only way out is through, which really gives you a lot of motivation to keep pushing,
100%.
to keep learning, to keep growing. And to your point, right? It doesn't matter what type of work it is, you're gonna figure out how to do it, and you did. And that's really helped propel your growth. I love that. As you share, your real estate investing, all of that wasn't quite what you planned right out of your MBA. What was your original plan, and how did investing fit with all of that?
First of all, when I went to Texas for my MBA, I had no intention to stay back. I had a career in Vietnam working in advertising agency for 7 years. So
Wow.
it's a little like burnout from work. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a break, and I didn't know what else to do. So my friend wanted to apply for MBA degree, and I just tag along, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do. So let me just figure some random plan. So before graduation, I got in touch with some friends in Vietnam, and we were trying to think, I'm going to really try to partner with them, open some advertising agency, focus on certain type of services. So it's open now, except I met my husband. So a lot of things happen with fate. I mentioned that, right? So I think that's one thing. I met my husband, and long story short, I stay back and I make a bad jokes that I'm stuck with him. So here we are in America. I didn't really plan to get my MBA for any plan to live here. So at that point, I had to figure like, okay, what I want to do. I don't know. I don't know enough about real estate. I mean, I have some random idea of investing, but I mean, I don't even know what is easement. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this thing if I don't even know what is easement, right? But when I started with that first home, I just like, I love looking at like project and see any potential out of it. So I just keep looking. So with my 7 year working in advertising, I know a thing or two about marketing. So I sit down and decided to really do some marketing to market myself. I still remember the very first postcard that I did. I have no tool instead of PowerPoint. So I create a postcard from a PowerPoint and have a company print it out and mail it out. And then somebody called me, and I'm like, oh, somebody actually from my PowerPoint postcard. So it's not bad. And then just like that, I slowly figure out my niche, my value proposition, what people needed for real estate and what I can do to help them. And so I just really get into the sale business. And then I was still looking at houses on the side with all the projects and whatnot. I shared the story with some of the groups that I belonged to before that I'm a deal queen. Like I only buy deal. So if it's no deal, I don't buy anything. So I went to Costco, and I know they was on sale for the pineapple for $2 or whatever. And then I wasn't there, and it's not on sale. So I was at the checkout, and they said, oh, there's no on sale anymore. So I went back and put it back on the shelf. And I did that because I was starting out with my whole family. We tried to save, we tried to build a little cushion for us. And then I had to really do that to really keep our financial in check. And at that point, I feel like, you know what? I did great with that. Like I saved money, and I'm very disciplined with it. But at the same time, I'm like, I want to be able to really build a career and a saving and a passive income to the point that if I'm at the checkout and the pineapple is not on sale, I'm going to check out and I don't really sweat. Right. So I really have a plan that I need to build some passive income. So a career is good, but passive income is a way to go. At that point, prices in Columbus is not as high. So it's easy for me to say, all right, I'm going to set the goal to buy one property a year. And I do whatever it takes to just really have that savings so that I can make it happen. And the first several years, I made that because I just really set the goal, and I really use that when the situation that you have no option, you have great motivation. And I think that's what helped me. I got that done like the first several years to get into investment while I'm still helping home buyer and seller. Like you said, there's a career to get the income to really help with the passive income. So that's the way that I think we all should pursue.
Absolutely. I love that you share that. You work as a realtor. That is your active income. That is something that the moment you stop, there's no more coming in, right? find something that will bring you that active income that is high, that you completely in your control. There's no ceiling to it, right? I love that formula. That was how I used my W-2. That's now become my partner. I don't see it as like, man, I'm still at a W-2. I see it as a partner that helped me fund my passive income. And in order to do that, what you said is the key there. You have to be disciplined. You have to be willing to live under your means. So that you have that extra cash from your active income. Now go ahead and use that to buy passive income. There's really no way around it, really. So I love that you share that. So you're now essentially focused a lot on being an agent using your marketing background, right? Which is something that I also really want to stress, because people may think like, man, I don't have anything. I don't have skills, but everybody has skills from their previous career, from whatever projects, from whatever life experience they have. Those skills are transferable. So talk to us a little bit about that passive income piece. So you mentioned that the first piece you buy was kind of the live and flip. You guys fix that up. Do you guys then refinance out of that one?
The next thing about mindset, right? So the first couple property, I decided I wouldn't get any loans. The Vietnamese people, like, they always believe that you want to go sleep at night, you don't really worry about whatever might happen tomorrow.
That is bad.
That is bad, right? Yeah. And so that way I scale a little slow at first, because I had to really save money. Thanks God, the price back in the day was not that high. Yeah. So I saved fast enough. So after a little while, I talked to a mortgage broker, and right now I still hang my mortgage license with him. So he was trying to share the concept of that is not bad. And I'm like, no, it's bad. And so he was trying to really convince me so many times, until one day I'm like, you know what? Maybe he's right. And maybe we need to change our mindset, change our perspective about this, and we have to be smart about it. I mean, end of the day, real estate business is risky. Yeah. So let's face it. All right. However, I always think it is calculated risk. If you really use the right approach, you have ways to really plan for the rainy days, and you figure out if something happened, what is your backup solution, then you'll be fine. But I was so low risk tolerant. And then the moment that I realized that if we want to go fast, we have to leverage. And financing is such a huge leverage tool. Who give you 20 back in the day, not today, but who give you 20% down payment and then you own a property? Nothing. If you can go buy stock, right? You have $10, you buy $10 of stock. Exactly. But here you have $2. People give you a $10 property. That's crazy. So if anybody is starting out and still have that mindset, that is bad. Feel that you're not alone. However, there's way around it. And as long as you get past that point, you're going to really get to the next level. So the next level for me was I do only invested in commercial real estate right now, because I realized that even I own a property management team, I don't want to have 100 doors. So we really leverage by get the equity out of the residential homes. It's a down payment for commercial property. Right now, I make a bad jokes that like I'm full of that. Like I still remember the very first time my husband signed off on the loan, he was like freak out. Never had that. And now every once in a while, I have him sign off another piece of paper that he have more debt on his name. We full of that right now. However, we calculate it and we know what we get ourselves into. And we need to really make sure that it's a smart investment instead of just leverage and we don't know how to handle risk. So we get into commercial investment, and using the leverage from residential is one strategy. I also flip houses because after the first home that I did, there's no reason I shouldn't really do flips. So we do flips, we don't do a lot, but several every year. We get into syndication partnership with people. We get into hard money lendings. But right now, we really want to invest in anything really passive. Like if any investment with high return, but require our attention all the time, it's not something we can afford to do. And that's why we don't really invest in multifamily, even though it's a great type to invest in. It's not passive at all.
It's not passive at all. Thinking from experience from a general partner perspective, it's never passive. It's as active as it gets. Yeah, Tracy, you hit on so many important points that I definitely want to emphasize. The first bit you said about debt It is a very common mindset with a lot of immigrants that debts are bad. We rarely get to borrow debt to do business, really. A lot of people still buy homes with just straight up cash. So I feel like the concept of good debt isn't quite something a lot of immigrants are familiar with. And so how would you even distinguish the two, right? Bad debt and good debt. So therefore we want to make sure the audience understand not all debt are good or bad. I define good debt as something that you essentially put down to then generate you more income. If you imagine that you had debt from buying liability, those things won't give you the income that good debt would give you. So good debt would be money that you use to buy an asset like a house, like a commercial asset, all that stuff. And that's really how people grow. To Tracy's point, right? Real estate is the one special thing that you can really leverage, which helped a lot of small investors starting out to grow. When you do stock, if you have $100, that's how much stock you can own. And it is something so outside of your control. Versus real estate, you can renovate the property, you can do a lot of these things that can help increase the value, right? So that is such a great point. And I love what you share about growing to commercial asset. I think that's kind of the trajectory of a lot of people growth. They do a lot of residential and then realize bigger does not mean that you have to spend even that much more time. Like buying a 500 units is not 500 times more than buying a single family in terms of time. There's like three things that people think about, right? Your money, your time, and your skill set. So at some point, any of those things will become the limiting factor. You may have a W-2, you may have a high income, you may have money, and you may have the skill set, but your time may be a limiting factor. What I also really want to share for the audience listening is like, don't be afraid to try new things. Just like what Tracy did, right? She tried these things to see what she likes, what she doesn't like. And at any point, you are completely in control of how you want to spend your time and energy. So if it's like, hey, this is not for me, do something completely passive, right? Something passive with high returns. Those are out there for sure. I want to ask a little bit about your commercial asset. What are some of the commercial assets that you have invested in, and what are some of your thoughts regarding that?
Sure. So normally when people move from residential to commercial, the first natural step is multifamily because still housing.
Yeah.
But I skip that.
Yeah.
And then I look around and I look at all the asset type and see what works in my local markets. Remember, Columbus will transition from like medium-sized city to like everybody talk about Columbus. And then I saw retail in some area was good. Medical office is in high demand. Warehouse is huge demand.
Yeah.
And so I focus on those. At one point, I look at office, but then also it have to be office, like mixed with warehouse or more than just like office. And so we really research what asset type would have high demand. That's what we did.
Okay.
If you're trying to scale, depend on where you are, you need to do a little homework and see what really high demand and where you are.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't really need to buy where you are. If you really have enough experience and enough research, you'll be able to really do everything from far distance. For example, this investor used to live in Columbus, Ohio, and then they moved out, but they still have some property here. And then we sold the property for them. Then we get the money and go invest next. And we were debating, should we buy in Columbus? Should we buy in where she is? And she decided, you know what? As long as money make money, that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So she decided to really look nationwide. And that's come with a new setup, learning skill right there.
Yeah.
Because you can ask me anything about Columbus and I can answer you in like just like that. And then now I have to really learn about every city and every state, right? And then you have to learn about the economy spring, the industry, how their policy locally affect the investment, all of it. So finally, my client bought the property like 3 hours from her, and it's great return, huge potential for growth. So she's super happy, and we're supposed to close in a couple of weeks. So
I love that.
just really do a little homework.
Yeah.
What's important to me is not necessarily important to her or, you know, vice versa.
Yep.
So normally I do a little consultation with people, but then end of the day, it's you to decide what's really important to you.
Yeah.
Right? So you grow And you can accumulate your skill set, your experience, your comfort zone is going to come from that.
Yep.
But before you get there, don't get distracted by shiny objects, because what worked for somebody else might not work for you. You got to really look inside and see what's the difference between you and that person. Maybe they have the skill set that you don't. Like I have experience with flipping houses, but if I don't even talk to me about value add. I have no way to figure out how to improve the value add, right? I work with a lot of investors that have the W-2 career and they're super busy. And some of them, like, they don't even care about value add. They just like buy me something and then get the key and we done.
Yeah.
And so that also means that they might have to put a little more down payment so that the number make more sense. But hey, that works for them. Because they don't want to deal with any long process of value add. And so there's no such thing as one thing fit all, but you just really have to figure out what works for you. When I do consultation with a client, I try to understand their story, what they're good at, what you're looking out of life. I try to figure all of that. And I lay down with them and I said, based on everything you told me, I think your way to really invest now should be this option. And then they will look at that and they say, that makes sense. And then they're going to really make the decision based on that.
Absolutely. You just share a lot of great things. I really want to stress for the audience. The first thing that you said is not everything is a good deal. And a good deal for someone may not be a good deal for the other. So just like that, money, time, and skill set depends on where you're at in life. A certain deal may make sense for you and it may not, right? The second thing that you said is you can invest anywhere. You can invest in your backyard. You can invest out of state. You can invest out of the country. I don't even have to visit Columbus. If I have someone like Tracy who can tell me what Columbus is like and be my boots on the ground. You walk through, you tell me how much this costs, I'll verify it and I run the finance, all the stuff. But like, I don't have to go out there to actually see it at this point, which actually free up a lot of time for people, right? When I was growing, I was the bottleneck because I gotta go out and look at the property. And I was often the ones holding it back. So it's very important to think about what is a good fit for you. And then just know that you can invest anywhere, even if you're super busy, right? You can invest in something turnkey and have property management in place and still be able to build wealth that way. So with that, I definitely want to switch over to your mystery question. So typically we ask our previous guests to leave question behind for our future guests. And your question is, what was a moment in your life when you decided to make a drastic change and how did it feel?
When I moved to Texas for my MBA, that's completely life changed right there. When I was done with my MBA, I realized that this is a moment. If I marry my husband, I'm going to really no longer move back to Vietnam. That's a huge deal. And for me, I had everything there. I had a career. I had my memory. I had good life. And so for me to really cut that cord is a huge deal. But sometimes, I don't know, fate might give you a challenge and you just have to decide if you want to take on it or not. But in this case, I decided this was new chapter of my life and that came with a ton of challenges. Again, mindset, lifestyle, everything changed, but that's what I had to do. When you have to deal with a situation, you just have to weigh your options and just pick one.
Yeah, I love that. Just pick one, you'll figure it out, and then you keep growing from there, right? And at any point, if you don't like what you pick, you can change it.
That's an amazing thing about life. You do have options.
You do have options.
We started by saying I didn't have a lot of options, but technically I didn't have to buy the house, right? I didn't have to live in one room and renovate the next room. That was not an option for me at that point because I had a goal and I want to really make something happen. So end of the day, you do have options.
You do have options. I love that.
So, you figure it out.
Yeah, I love that. And I definitely want to have you share a charity or a cause that you want to support. Share that with our audience to thank you for your time being here today and share with us your amazing story. So tell us a little bit more about the charity or the cause that you would like us to support.
I always feel like there's so many places that we can make a difference, but believe it or not, I still had huge memory chunk in Vietnam.
Yeah.
So I always try to look back there. So I have one daughter, and every year we have her birthday party, and we try to do the no gift. But any donation amount is appreciated, and we collect the check from people, and then we go back to Vietnam and try to find the organization that we can help. So we did that for several years. And 2024, we went to one organization in Dong Nai. They basically have like kids, orphanages, and then they try to really teach them and help them. And the cool thing is, whoever grew up from that environment and had a successful life out of it, they actually started to contribute back like 10% of their salary back into the center. So that keeps going. So that's really
Awesome.
cool.
Thank you so much. Tell the audience how they can find out more about you or get in touch with you.
If you really come to Columbus, give me a call, 614-949-4270. And you can reach me at my email too. My work email is my first name, last name @kw.com.
Awesome. Okay, good. We'll link that in the show note as well. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Tracy. It was great having you and great getting to know your story. I'll see everybody next time.
Thank you.